In honor of Nolan Jones, welcome into the 22nd episode of Cleveland Sports Realm. Kevin, joined alongside my good friend Jerome and No Chill Eric, producer Eric behind the camera. Welcome in. Got a lot to talk about today. Jerome, how are we doing?
We're doing okay. We're hanging in there, all is okay in my department.
Good. I'm glad to hear it. Man.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you want to dive into it?
Yeah, absolutely. What do you want to start with? There's not a lot too much going on with the Cavs. Cavs are pretty much status quo, waiting for the playoffs to start. Obviously, we've got the Guardians season has started. We're about a week into it, and then obviously some stuff going on with the Browns and the stadium, things like that. So I'm good. I'm good to take it wherever you want to start it, man.
Yeah, I think we should start. Let's actually start with a little bit more of the business side of things. I think we'll take it off with the stadium here.
Okay.
So the Browns did get approved from the state money, which is a big step forward in their process of making this dome in Brook Park, right? So they did get the state money. And shout out before we begin in talking to this, Daryl Ryder has covered this better than anybody.
Yes.
He has been on top of this issue for the last couple of years now. And I think, a lot of people think, oh, it's okay, they'll get a stadium. But if you really start looking into this, it's kind of ugly. And I don't want to get super negative of it, but my dad, who lived through it and told me, my dad goes, it has a couple similar parallels to the Art Modell and the Browns leaving town. And obviously, I don't think we're going to get there this time. Jimmy seems committed through and through to the city of Cleveland to the point where he said, hey, if we don't get the dome in Brook Park, he's willing to go the plan B, which is redoing the current stadium. But Kevin, I got to tell you, from my point of view, I think plan B is terrible.
Yeah, so I was, speaking of what you just bringing up, Daryl Ryder, he actually had tweeted out from the minute that we started recording this, about an hour and a half ago, he had tweeted out that if Plan B comes to fruition and they end up not doing the Brook Park Stadium and they do keep the stadium downtown and they do renovate that could be like a 10-year project, which in all actuality would be the worst case scenario. Which, looking back at it, there's obviously always been the debate on whether it should be a dome, whether they should renovate, what are they going to do with the stadium. And I've always been in the camp of I love where the stadium's located. I just love that it's on the shore. I love that it's downtown. I love the location of it. And if we could renovate it, that would be my number one option. But if it's going to be a 10-year project, it seems like, it's got to be Brook Park then. If it's going to take a decade to get that done.
I think that's the entire lakefront, though. That's like the whole area down there, not just the stadium. I think that's the whole area down there.
Oh, well then,
but here's
no
the
problem.
thing. Here's
no
my
problem
thing with
for
that.
Me.
Here's my thing with that. If they do keep it downtown, and they have to go with from the Browns, from their lens, their point B,
Plan
B, yeah. I don't like it. And the reason I don't is because I think, look, the stadium's falling apart as is. And we can go into that. And to be honest with you, when you look at what some of these teams have built now, the Browns Stadium is kind of like ancient. Like it's of a class before a lot of these current stadiums. And a couple off the top of my head: Mercedes-Benz in Atlanta, SoFi in LA, the palatial estate the Vikings have up there in Minneapolis. Like, look at their stadiums, then look at ours. It looks ancient compared to that. And I think, to me, as a taxpayer, and if we're going to be kicking in for this thing, I'd rather build one of those palatial estates than kick in money on a stadium that I think doesn't have much lifespan left. Let's say they do a big renovation downtown. Mm-hmm. What's it going to do for you? Buy you 10 years and you're going to have to redo it again? Like, I don't see that being a feasible idea or make any sense.
Yeah, I don't know how the infrastructure of that works at all, to be quite honest with you. Now, if it is one of those, and we've heard, the Browns, the city of Cleveland, they've come out and basically said that the stadium's not really made to last too much longer. So a lot of renovations would have to be done in order to keep that stadium in place. So obviously the best option seems to be moving to Brook Park. And then also that comes with, everybody already knows the revenue that would generate for Northeast Ohio. I'm not going to say the city of Cleveland, but for Northeast Ohio, in and of itself, it would absolutely generate a ton of revenue, being able to host events there, being able to basically build a community around that for tourists, tourism, things
absolutely.
like that. So,
and I think, here's my problem with building it or redoing the lakefront stadium. Let's say that the Browns put a bunch of money in and the city says, oh, well, we're going to redevelop the lakefront. They have been talking about redeveloping that lakefront for years. And to be honest with you, the lakefront, there's nothing there. It is the airport, the science center, and the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Like, they talk about, we're going to build this park and that park, and it's going to be beautiful and glorious, and we're going to make a shopping, like all this stuff. It's been 30 years of a lot of talk and no action. So,
which really, the only way I see that lakefront developing is if the stadium's not there.
Yeah,
that's the only way I see it ever developing. So even if they,
and then the port's down there too, but that's not
right.
Really
even
important.
if they fix up the stadium and renovate that so that the Browns can play there, and they do try to build, its own little community around it, I don't really see it being as successful as a Brook Park.
Right, and also when you look at the main thing, the success, the pinnacle part of the project has to be a nice place. So if they build a dome in Brook Park, it's going to be nice. The pinnacle would be your pinnacle of this redeveloped nice lakefront would be a third, by the time it would be done, a 30-plus-year-old stadium.
So do we know how the renovations would work, though? Like, do we know if they're going to do retractable roof? Are they going to do dome? Or are they just going to basically just renovate it and try to make it last longer than it's supposed to last right now?
From my understanding, it would just be a renovation, because I have heard...
So basically keeping no dome, no retractable roof?
I've heard that the way that current stadium's built, it would cost billions of dollars just to put a roof on it. And also, when a stadium's built to be outdoors and not have a roof, it'd be a very...
Yeah.
I mean, the engineers on that'd be a brutal...
They didn't game plan for that.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be tough. So I think, look, if the state gave you the money today, that's a big step forward. But getting these local politicians on board is tough. And the county commissioner and the Mayor Bibb are fighting the Browns tooth and nail on everything. And I think a little bit of it is getting ridiculous, if you ask me. Like, yeah, their thing is, and I've said this all along when we've talked about this issue on the podcast in the past, right? Like, their big thing is we want to keep it in Cleveland, but they offer no viable solution. And their number one solution is to redo the current places, which we just laid out for the last 6 minutes why it's a terrible idea.
Yeah.
So, to me, look, I get it. You don't like the idea of them leaving downtown and the revenue it's gonna lose. But here's the current thing: the mayor's already lost them a lot of revenue because they canceled West 6th. We know about that.
Yep.
Which was which I guess because they had too many problems with underages. So they talk about how much revenue Browns game day brings them. But without that West 6 drew thousands of folks every Sunday.
It did.
So
I was in attendance for a few of those.
Yeah. So have I. Been in years ago. It's been a long time, but because obviously being there now.
Yep.
But I mean, Kevin, I don't see where the city claims they get so much revenue. But how? Because the only revenue and I guess that still is a good chunk of change, but it can't be that much that it's worth keeping. Their biggest revenue now is all the money that goes to the Muni lot.
I was actually just thinking about that because a lot of what Mayor Bibb and the city of Cleveland have tried to say is that it takes away the revenue after the games of people going downtown, going to the bars after. And I actually always thought it took away from the revenue before the games, the pre-games that go on down there. And then obviously what you're saying with the Muni lot, obviously there's a lot of people down there, but after the games, it's Sunday, 4 or 5 o'clock. People got to go home. They got to work the next day. All that revenue is not being taken away from after the game. It's being taken away from before the game.
Now, what I noticed is it often to me, from still being down there because I'm working and leaving a little bit later, to me, it's crazy to say, but the success of the Browns on the field actually impacts whether people stay after the game. Because I'll tell you,
sure, yeah,
and I know that's it seems like it's almost too simple to be true, but that's just my observation from it. Look, people go before the game no matter what. So you're right. Your point is 100% accurate. But after the game, if the Browns get slaughtered, folks are out of there at halftime. They're not sticking around and going drinking after the game. They're not. Now, when the Browns win, people are feeling a little good and feeling the vibes are high. And the hell with it. I got to work tomorrow, but I'll stick around for a few beers.
Let me tell you this, man. After the Browns beat the Jets in Cleveland, 2023, the whiteout downtown, I've never seen after a Browns game, a Browns night game with the following day being a weekday, that city in an uproar like it was. Like, people were bar hopping until 2-3 a.m., man.
Right. So yeah, to me, I get the mayor's point of view is loss of revenue. But listen, and this is a good theory. My dad offered a good theory today, and I think it's actually a very viable solution that would make everybody happy.
Okay.
The mayor's main problem is he thinks he's going to lose revenue for the city. Fine. the Browns are technically going to be in Brook Park, right? So the Browns are going to need cops. They're going to need EMS. They're going to need all that, right? They're going to need hundreds and maybe thousands of those people to work the games, like cops, EMS, traffic people, all that, right? Well, the city of Cleveland, obviously being, a city, a mid-major city, has the amount of people they have accomplished that for for many years. But Brook Park's not going to have the staff to do that. So my dad's offered a good solution today. I think it's good. Maybe the mayor makes a deal with the city of Brook Park and says, hey, we'll offer you our cops and our EMS and everything you need to staff a Browns game day. But in order for the trade back, we want a certain percentage of the revenue you're making from the bars and the restaurants that are out there in Brook Park. And I think that's a viable solution. Because if the mayor thinks his main problem's revenue, the city of Brook Park it's no bigger than any other average suburb. They don't have the police force or the fire or EMS to handle a Browns game day.
Yeah, I don't know how that would work. Like, I don't know how you'd be able to do that logistically in the sense of like, okay, this is the revenue we've received as a result of people coming to the Browns game. This is the revenue that we received as a people just on your regular Tuesday, on your regular Wednesday, whatever. Like, I don't know how you would be able to regulate unless it's just like strictly these are Browns Sundays. On these days, this is when we're actually going to set aside this percentage. Then I think you could probably make that work.
Yeah.
But I don't know how you'd be able to regulate it if it was, let's say, just like season round. Like,
yeah, I agree. And make no mistake about it. A lot of the NFL owners, they collect their own parking revenue. Jimmy Haslam, he's not going to say this publicly, obviously, with all the infighting going on between the Browns and the city. Jimmy Haslam absolutely hates and despises the city of Cleveland collects all the parking dollars from the pit and the muni lot.
I'm sure he does.
And all the garages.
He
wants
does.
that money. And so if it goes to Brook Park, that's why he wants that to be his. But is really what it coming down to parking money what's going to stop the Browns from building a new stadium? That to me is ludicrous.
Yeah, I don't think so.
And I think at some point the mayor needs to give off his high horse, whether that's getting the Browns to give him more money. It's all a money fight, I think, is what it is. And I think that's been that way since day one.
It absolutely is. You've got business owners arguing with a mayor, and the mayor's whole point is revenue. It's all it is a money war.
Right. But at the end of the day, you don't want to call. Look, the Browns are losing fans many other ways, like with what they do in their own organization and their play on the field. The last thing they need is people to say, I'm not going to the Browns game because if you've been to that stadium, it's a dilapidated, pardon my French, shithole.
I don't think that's going to stop anybody from going to Browns games. I mean, it's not like you see these first class people in suits coming to these Browns games that are hoping to sit in these fine seats. And no, you're going and you're getting hammered and you're going to watch the Browns. You don't really care what the stadium looks like, in my opinion, when you go to see it. Now, to the other point, like, yes, when it's wintertime, absolutely you'll have the people that will say, it is going to be freezing in that stadium. I'm not going.
Right.
Like, that's the side of it that I see in terms of getting even like the average diehard fan that'll be like, I don't want to sit in 15-degree weather and watch a 3-12 football team.
Right.
So, I mean, I get it from that standpoint.
And if it wasn't for playing the Chiefs last year at the end of the year and a couple other people who brought big opposing fan bases, that stadium would have been empty towards the end of the year last year. And
yeah,
look,
because the last time it was really packed to the brim with mostly Browns fans, like 90% Browns fans, was the Browns-Steelers Snow Globe game.
Yeah, and that was it. And then after that, people, right? I'm not blaming them, rightly so, said the hell with this.
Yeah,
and that's where I think. And I know it seems so simple-minded, but it's true. Like, you wonder if the Browns were any good, would the city be putting up the fight they were? I don't know. I mean, that's just a conspiracy theory by me. Like, if the Browns were good on the field, would the city be more like, hey, we'll give you what you want?
I feel like they'd fight harder to keep the Browns in Cleveland.
Yeah, that could be true too.
Because you got a great football team that's drawing a lot of interest that are going downtown. And then in that case, if the Browns were a consistent above 500 football team, I think you would see more people at the bars after the game, even after losses.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the problem is it's tough because the Browns have been so bad that it's like, them going and asking for city and state money, some people are like, really? We're going to give our tax dollars to that?
Especially after all the money that we give them anyway, man.
Yeah.
I mean,
no, it's a fair
they're
point.
a big expense for me every year.
Oh, me too. Oh, I mean, if it wasn't, there's quite a few things I could say this about in my life, but if it wasn't for the Cleveland Browns and all the money that I've given them, I'd have a lot more money in my bank account. I promise you that. I mean, and same for you, I'm sure. I mean, I could think of thousands of dollars.
Thousands and
thousands of dollars. I mean, it makes me shiver just thinking about all the money I've given those losers.
Yeah, you know what's funny? I'm going to actually bring back a throwback that I don't think we've ever mentioned on this podcast before, but Jerome and I were in college. This would have been our sophomore year, I think, and we were in a presentational speaking class, and we had to basically bring up a debate on try to influence.
Oh yeah, I know where you're going now.
We tried to influence our class to believe what our belief was, and what we had presented to them was to stop supporting the Cleveland Browns and stop buying merchandise so that they have a reason to be good, so people can buy it again. And we might have to do that again.
Yeah, I that was fun, and I remember that, and I remember giving that speech. And I was also a season ticket holder at the same time that I gave that speech. So I'm part of the problem.
We're all part of the problem.
I'll firsthand admit it to all our listeners. I'm part of the Browns problem.
And that's going on. What would you say? That was probably 8 years ago.
Well, that was
sophomore or junior year.
That was oh boy,
which would have been 2017, 2018.
I'm gonna say that was 7 or 8 years ago. Yeah. And
here we are 7-8 years later talking about doing it again.
But yeah. No, I agree. But to put a bow on the stadium discussion, it is big that they got the money from the state. Now, the problem is I don't think the state ever had problems giving the Browns money, but it's always been the city that they've been fighting with. But I still do think in some retrospect it is a hurdle to get that state money, and they got it. So we'll see what happens there.
Yeah.
And one thing I could say, I truly believe Jimmy Haslam's been a relatively, for all intents and purposes, a pretty pathetic and horrible owner.
Sure.
But I'll give him this much credit. I don't think he has any plan. Like, he's going to fight and make this work somehow, some way, whether it's even the horrible plan B of redoing the current stadium or he gets his pleasure palace in Brook Park. To me, if he is, he's pulling the wool over my eyes. I don't think Jimmy Haslam has any plans to uproot this team.
Let me ask you this, because we've asked a very similar question, but it's been in more so regards to the NFL draft in terms of who the Browns going to take it to. I'm going to ask a different question in relation to the Browns. Where are they going to be playing football home games in 2035?
I think at the Huntington Bank Dome in Brook Park. I do.
Okay, you think it is going to be Brook Park?
I think it's a long fight that's been knock it out, draw. But I think eventually, maybe if the Browns give the mayor just a little bit more money, as like a severance package, or give him some money to knock down the current stadium, I think that at the end of the day, it will get done. I think it is. Make no mistake about it, though. A lot of people are pushing this towards the back burner. Daryl Ryder's not, and he's said it. It is an ugly, ugly situation, and I think one that a lot of folks just aren't giving enough attention. And I don't know why, but I don't think people realize how ugly and serious of an issue this is.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, if I were to guess, just answering the same question, I would probably say it's going to end up in Brook Park. And the only reason I say that is whenever the Haslams want something, they get it. They'll figure out a way to get it. So I'm gonna say that the odds are in the Haslam's favor. I'm gonna say they're gonna be in Brook Park in 10 years as well.
Okay. Yeah, so we both think, even though it's ugly and it's looked pretty bleak at points, that they will get the dome in Brook Park.
I like that point by your dad, by the way. If there was a way to figure that out in terms of being able to allocate some funds,
I agree, to
Cleveland to help with the extra security and stuff like that, I think that would be a very beneficial thing for both parties.
Yeah. So shout out to my dad. Great, good idea. And maybe they'll be able to figure it out. And there's people a lot smarter than me, you, and my dad who can hopefully make that work somehow, some way.
Right.
But one last thing that I did want to say about this whole thing is, I'd be curious if the Browns did. The city keeps talking about develop the lakefront. I wonder if, let's say the Browns are playing in Brook Park and they end up wrecking ball and the current Huntington Bank field.
Yeah.
to me, I would be shocked if there was anything that ever went there. Like, I don't think.
Oh, the actual lakefront?
Yeah.
I would be too, I think.
I mean, they've been talking about developing this long before you and I were alive.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah, I think it would be a while. And what are they talking about even putting there?
They've talked about a million different things, but none of them have ever. The
funny thing is when it comes to the teams and all the shenanigans, all the politics, when it comes to where the fields are going to be and what this is going to happen off the field, like I try not to pay too much attention to it because I'm a fan because of what happens on the field and what goes on in the locker rooms as opposed to all the political stuff. But it is interesting, and I know it's getting ugly with the Browns Stadium, and hopefully they can come to some solid resolution that pleases both parties.
Yeah, and it's sad that it always comes to this point, but and I get your point of looking out on the field, but what happens sometimes when these billionaire owners don't get what they want, they cry and go home, and then their solution is, well, we'll just move it. I mean, you see it. It's happened too much in sports where we've seen teams relocate, and it does leave fan bases just I mean, look, no other example than right here in our town of Cleveland, Ohio.
30 years ago.
30 years ago right now. Yeah. So, it would be,
it was 95, wasn't it?
Yep. So it does happen. So one last thing I want to point out about this, though. The Browns got their money. Producer Derek's team, they're going to be coming with their hat in their hand. They're going to say, well, hey, we're in Ohio, too. You gave state money to the Browns. We're here, too. Where the hell is our money? And Bengals are going to come with their hat in their hand, and rightly so.
That's the other difference, though, is that the Haslams actually spend money. The Bengals just don't.
Yeah.
But the Bengals did pay Chase and paid Higgins, which I will say, I think paying Higgins was a mistake because they're going to lose Trey Hendrickson as a result, and Hendrickson's so much more valuable to that team than T. Higgins is, without a doubt. I mean, the guy was was he like the second or third in Defensive Player of the Year, and then you're going to pay your number 2 receiver $100+ million?
Yeah,
I can't get behind that.
Well, hey, those franchise quarterbacks get what they want. Joe wanted T. Joe got T.
Well, Joe's also going to have to score 40+ points a game if they lose Hendrickson.
I agree with you. But, yeah, and the Bengals stadium, from some folks I hear, it's in even worse shape than the Browns. So don't be surprised if the old producer Derek's shaking his head with a very serious look on his face saying, like, yes, it's awful.
Which is funny because the Bengals stadium named after the former Cleveland Browns owner.
Yeah, or
Paul
coach.
Brown. Or coach, excuse me.
No, it's Paycor now.
Oh.
Yeah.
Regardless, you get the point.
Yeah, but it was. But yeah.
No Eric actually coming in with some valuable valuable input there.
Yeah, I know.
Shout it out.
We're talking about
Paycor?
Yeah. So don't be surprised if Derek and his team down there come with their hat in their hand looking for some money too now that the Browns got their state money. So, All right. Well, we're going to move on to let's transition to, we talked about him a little bit. Jimmy Haslam finally putting the albatross to bed. And I think even though we all knew it,
it's nice to hear.
That was the first time they've come out and said it. And it felt, I got to say this, it feels deliberating as a fan. It feels like you just got a rope untied from your neck when you were, I mean, it was that bad.
Yeah, well, you know what? I mean, Andrew Berry had said something a few weeks ago. He had hinted at, this was a move that we made that didn't end up working out how we had planned it to work out. He had a very political answer, but did basically, the gist of it was like, yes, it was a mistake to do the move that we did. And then Haslam came out, did not sugarcoat anything. He said, it was a huge swing and a miss. That's basically what he said. His exact words.
Yeah, his exact.
And then his wife tried to blame it on some injuries. Dee blamed it on the Deshaun injuries and that. But yes, it was a huge swing and a miss. And as we've talked about numerous times on this podcast before, the worst move in NFL history, probably transaction wise.
Oh, absolutely. And I think, listen, when at the end of the year, as a fan, and I know I wasn't alone in this, a lot of fans were really frustrated when they kept giving the PC answer of, well, he just needs to get healthy. He just needs to get healthy. Oh, he retore his Achilles, but when he comes back, he needs to get healthy. No, when the owner of the franchise comes out and says, well, it was a hell of a swing and a miss, that tells you it's done. Yeah. It's buried. Thank God our prayers have been answered. I mean, And you know what's crazy about this? I feel great as a Browns fan about it, and we have no solution.
Yeah, I was just about to
we
say
have
that.
zero solution, and it still feels good.
I was just about to say, and we don't even know our QB1 right now is Kenny Pickett.
Yeah, we have zero solution, and it still feels like, thank God they finally put it to bed.
Which can we just say right now? I would rather have Kenny Pickett week 1 than Deshaun.
Oh, I agree.
Yeah, 100%.
I would have anybody. I would have any quarterback who's on it.
DTR?
Yep.
I would not.
Yeah, I'll take DTR.
On the field, I'd rather have Deshaun than DTR.
I can't go there. But no, I mean, this is something that they kind of needed to come out and say. And I also think another interesting, and you go to this NFL owners meetings and they have the coaches breakfast, and not that much really interesting comes out of those usually. But it is the only thing that's usually noteworthy is Jimmy Haslam doesn't really do media scrums a lot or get in front of the podium a lot. And this is one of the few times a year that our beat reporters get a chance to talk to him. And I also thought it was interesting that he said, yeah, we need a quarterback. We know that, but we can't force it. And I think that's the right approach. And I hope that he's not just giving the Browns fans lip service. And I hope that, I hope that his words are true, but oftentimes, what they say to the press and what's going on behind the scenes is not really the same.
This is what my point has been this entire time since the end of the season. Was what Jimmy Haslam said, you cannot force the quarterback position. You can't.
Right.
I've been trying to say this about the number 2 overall pick, about, the people who quarterback no matter what. If he's not your guy, don't take him. We don't want to just take somebody to take somebody. So take the best player available when your quarterback comes, whether it's next draft, the following draft, whenever. Now, you don't want to push it. You don't want to wait for the perfect quarterback mold, because it's never gonna happen. So you have to put your eggs in a basket, but don't put it in a basket that you don't actually believe in. So I don't know what their game plan is at quarterback. I was reading again some Kirk Cousins rumors. There were some reports from ESPN about Kirk Cousins, and I think Arthur Blank, the owner of the Falcons, had mentioned the possibility of him being available. However, Raheem Morris, the head coach, had come out and said, they're very comfortable with him being their backup quarterback. So a little bit of contradictory answers from the Falcons there, but Kirk Cousins sounds like potentially still on the table for the Browns. I think they'll figure out the quarterback problem. I still go back to Myles Garrett signing the extension and think there has to be something in the works somewhere that no one's heard about.
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if they figured out something with Kirk Cousins. And, as much as I just celebrated and I went nuts and I did get very loud and vocal about Jimmy saying that, the biggest problem I have with it is the three stooges, Jimmy Haslam, Andrew Berry, and Paul DePodesta, who made a decision to bring in Watson, and it was a huge swing and a miss. They're also the three stooges who are probably going to pick who's quarterback this fall.
Oh, yeah. No,
so that it is as deliberating as it is to put the Deshaun thing to bed, and it is. Trust
liberating.
me. Or liberating, sorry.
Yeah. No, you're good.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. I don't want to sound uneducated here, but as much as a relief as that is,
yes,
it still does concern you greatly that these are the three stooges who are probably going to pick the next quarterback.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. So I don't know what it's going to, I don't have any faith in them right now to be able to do this. And I do want to shout out Ken Carman, because I was listening to him earlier this week, and he did make me laugh because Darryl Ryder had gone on and said that he wanted the Browns to take Travis Hunter at 2. The reason being they potentially need a corner with Emerson and Newsome might not being here in 2 years after this upcoming season. You don't need a number 2 receiver. Travis Hunter can do both of them. And Ken Carman did say, and what gives you any confidence that they're going to play him on the right side of the ball?
Yeah.
Which I got to tell you is a great point. What have they done to prove, like they go up into these press conferences and talk as if they've proven themselves.
Or accomplished anything.
Yeah, that's exactly. Yeah, as if they have done anything. No, you drafted a bust in 2020. You drafted an average player in the first round in 2021, and then your next 3 first rounders were spent on the worst transaction in NFL history. And you know what the Browns did? They extended him.
Yeah.
They gave him an extension.
I know. I know.
What gives you any faith that they're going to be able to get this right ever with the regime that's in place? The only person I'm confident in, and it's probably blind confidence, honestly, is Kevin Stefanski, because I've seen him do it with numerous quarterbacks.
Yeah, no, that's the person I'm most confident in.
And the reason that they will not get rid of Barry is because the reason they've gotten past getting rid of regimes in the past, is because the head coach and the GM have been on different wavelengths. Barry and Stefanski apparently seem to be on the same wavelength, so they want to keep Stefanski. He's on the same wavelength as Andrew Barry, and it's...
Well, and I'm not... Andrew Barry deserves a lot of heat, and you just gave him a bunch, too, and I'm not saying it's unwarranted, but here's my biggest gripe. Andrew Barry's got to go out there and face the media. Andrew Barry's the one who faces the fans. The puppet master behind the scenes, we never, and still haven't in years, heard from. When the hell is Paul DePodesta going to get up there in front of a microphone with a podium and talk to us?
He's going to say the same thing that Andrew Barry says, and that's everything. He answers things without an answer. And
I understand.
It's really annoying, though. But
a lot of people who cover the Browns, and sorry to interrupt you, let me just get this across, say that, Paul DePodesta was a big part of this. Paul DePodesta was a big part of that. It should be time that he has to answer for something. Kevin Stefanski's been a sacrificial lamb who has to go there and answer for the idiots who work above him for years.
Yeah.
Andrew Barry does. Jimmy Haslam, he's an idiot too. He doesn't get avoided in the blame of this either. But at least Jimmy talks to us a couple times a year. Usually once at training camp, once at the NFL owners meeting. Coaches' breakfast shenanigans they just had down. We don't ever see from DePodesta. I think it's time that he answers somebody. And also, I'm going to blame Jimmy too. Paul DePodesta has been here the longest, right? He's been here since 2016. He has been here for 9 years. What the hell has he accomplished? What has he done?
No one knows.
What does he do?
Yeah, I was about to say, no one even knows what he does, let alone what has he done to keep his job.
I don't want to get, anybody in trouble, but let me just put it this way. I obviously can't use, there's people who work in that building on a day-to-day basis, I'm only part-time there, who work there full-time, and they don't know what he does. They don't have a clue. Nobody knows.
What is his actual title?
Chief Strategy Officer. So what does he do?
He's the CSO of the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah. He's the one who's pulling all these strings, and I'd really, I'd love to sit down with Jimmy and D and say, you guys have ran this thing horribly. Their overall record, I think, as owners is like 30 or 40 games below 500.
So let me get this straight. Paul DePodesta has been a part of regimes that have traded down from quarterbacks to accumulate more picks, because it was the more picks you have, the more shots you have, the more shots you have to get it right?
Yeah.
And then he was part of a regime that traded their entire future for one player. What does this guy believe in? Or is he literally just like, oh no, come on, Paul, you have you're just stringing them along for season by season just to say.
No, I don't know, because
come on.
Because Paul DePodesta, from reports, was the one who decided he wanted to trade down in 2017, and then the guy that he wanted to trade down from, he gave the moon, the stars, and the earth 4 years later.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I would love, and if I, obviously complete hypothetical, never going to happen. If we could have both of us, one-on-one sit down with James Haslam III, my question to him is, Jim, you've owned this thing since 2012. It's been a total train wreck. But the one person that you've never gotten rid of on the football side was Paul DePodesta. What the hell confidence does he inspire into you and your wife that you just keep him? And by the way, pay him very handsomely.
Oh, well, yeah, he's got to be making some serious coin.
Right. I'd love to know, and we'll never know. And it's, I'm going to ask it one more. What the hell does he do?
I have a feeling he's one of those guys that when management and stuff they come together, they talk strategy, they talk, okay, this is the player we want this round, this is the player, if he's not there, let's go after this guy. Yeah. They all go over it, they analyze it. They give Paul a call. Paul, we like these players. What do you think? Yeah, it's fine.
No,
I think that is the extent of Paul. Can you imagine Paul DePodesta going into any room and advocating for a move? I can't. He shows up to Cleveland once a year.
Well, no, he does come into the games. And remind me, I cannot do it on the air, but remind me, I got a funny story about him off the air that I got to tell you. But
I don't know how you tease something like that.
No. They do it. Radio does it all the time.
Yeah, I know.
I can't do it. I cannot do it. I
Wow.
cannot do it. But remind me, I got a good DePodesta story for you. But regardless, I don't know what the guy does, and I also it's interesting because he supposedly like leads the analytics department. So the way that you describe it, I believe, when Dorsey ran the show, I think that's ultimately why Dorsey was shown the door.
If I remember correctly, those were some of the reports.
Because there was a big power struggle because Paul DePodesta wants to sit there with spreadsheets, and John Dorsey's
that's a football player.
John
right
Dorsey's a sit there, smoke my cigar. Does he hit hard? Does he tackle? Hey, I want him.
Yeah,
and they were totally different.
Yeah, and look at John Dorsey's first-round picks, and then now look at how the Lions are doing.
Yeah.
Haslam, did you pick correctly?
Yeah. No, you chose to keep spreadsheet around.
Though I will say Dorsey did advocate for Kitchens, so
yeah, well, that's a whole different can of worms for
totally,
a different day. But no, I mean, we'll never know what the hell he does. But let's move off of the Browns with finishing with our weekly poll question here.
Yeah,
number 2,
Carter,
Shador.
Still,
yeah.
What do you think the odds are? I know we've talked to players a lot. What do you think the odds are that they actually move that pick? Like they trade down or trade up? I don't think they're trading up, by the way. But just, do you think they stay at 2? What do you think the odds are that they actually move down?
Well, what's Paul DePodesta's spreadsheet tell him?
I don't know. Let's go back to 2016 through 2018.
Yeah, I told him to trade down every time.
Yeah.
No, yeah, I don't know. I think they probably stay put.
I think they stay put too, but
yeah.
I'm going to give it a 10% chance they move down. I think 50% chance it's Carter. I feel pretty strongly that it's going to be Carter right now. I think there's an outside shot that it's Hunter, but I think Shador would be the other play. But I'm starting to think that it's not going to be Shador. I would actually give probably 60-70% chance it's Carter now that I think about it.
Okay, I'm still pretty sad that it's Shador.
Even after we're not going to force a quarterback.
Yeah,
even after Haslam said that.
I think this weekend will be interesting. Not that much. I mean, you can't really tell much from it, but the whole Browns brass will be out in Colorado, in Boulder, for the Shador and Travis Hunter Pro Day.
Right, which you would expect. I mean, they're 2 out of the 3 players that are basically in play.
I mean, we're not gonna tell everything. Everything we say right now is total guessing and
hogwash.
Educated guess on our part.
Yeah, it is educated guesses, just based off of what the quote unquote experts have been posting on X and all the social media platforms. It's kind of the conclusions that we have come to.
So yeah, all right. Well, that's that for the Browns. We spent 38 minutes talking about their on and off the field issues. Yeah, they just got problems everywhere right now.
I mean, story of the last 25 years,
exactly.
26 years.
So let's talk about the baseball team and their problems in the early going here.
Yeah.
2-4 start, as they did lose to the Padres and get swept today. Look, part of me is pretty frustrated, but part of me wants to say it's 6 games. There's 156 of these things to go.
That's where my mindset is.
And I think the Padres are a really, really good team. I mean, they
were 1 win away from the NLCS last year.
Right. I mean, they were up on the Dodgers, like the
2-1.
world beater Dodgers.
Yeah.
They had the lead, and they just could not hit the last 3 games of the series. So, look, they're a really, really good team. They started super hot. They smoked the Braves over the weekend, smoked the Guardians. By a lot of people's picks, those are 2 teams that probably should be pretty good this year. Problems, the biggest one to me so far, Luis Ortiz's first start was pretty rough. if that's their work in progress, it looks like they need a little bit more work there. He's just not throwing enough strikes and locating, and when he does, it's right down Broadway.
Well, I was just going to say, when we were watching the game the other night together, it seemed like every pitch that Luis Ortiz threw, it was either right down the middle, a fastball right down the middle, or it wasn't even close to the zone.
No.
So
you're right.
I was really hoping the spring training, and granted, like we've said before, like I didn't watch a lot of spring training. I know you didn't watch a ton of the spring training games. I know you watched some highlights here and there, but I was really hoping that the spring training statistics that Luis Ortiz was throwing out there was a fluke, I guess, or just not going to be what he carried over into the season. And unfortunately, it looks like he did. But yeah, he's looked rough. Logan Allen actually put on a pretty decent effort the other night.
I thought that too, and not to interrupt you, but
No, you're good.
Listen, that's a loaded lineup in San Diego. Like 1 through about 7 are really, really, really good hitters.
Would you say they're the second best team in the NL? I mean, let's take it back preseason start. Probably going into it, you would have said the Dodgers and the Padres.
I would
right?
say I think the Diamondbacks might even be better. The Diamondbacks
I like
are
the Diamondbacks.
really good, and their rotation.
You see, they extended Ketel Marte today
again. Yeah. Yeah, they're really good. Their rotation's absolutely loaded. You had Corbin Burns that. I mean, they can hit too. They came down against the Torpedo Bat Bronx Bombers.
They're a fun team.
They they were able to come back last night, and Eugenio Suarez is off to a scorching start. But
which let's sidetrack for a second, just because it is such a hot topic right now. What's your stance on the Torpedo Bats? Something we haven't talked about.
I think a little bit too much is being made out of it because, look, a lot of the guys who cover the game say these are being used last year, and we know if the Yankees fart, it draws headlines.
I'm telling you, if a team like the Mariners, just throwing out a random team, if they had the results that the Yankees had, I think we would just be like, wow, the Mariners, what a great start to the year. Great start. No. I definitely think it's being overblown because it's the Yankees.
Right.
I originally did buy the clickbait that it was that the Yankees were cheating, and I immediately was like, of course, the Yankees are doing this. And then I saw everything else coming in, and I'm like, okay, other teams are doing it. The Yankees are just doing it better. And obviously, the Yankees don't have as big of a park in terms of like the actual length of the home runs. So, of course, there's going to be inflated statistics there.
Right, the dimensions.
Yes.
Look, the funniest thing about it to me was I didn't think twice about it. And to be perfectly honest with you, when it blew up, when the Yankees play-by-play TV announcer, Michael Kay, who's been their TV guy for years and years and years, Anthony Volpe's at the plate, and I actually happened to be watching the game live.
Oh, okay.
When Michael Kay comes and says, well, Anthony Volpe changed, and it's called a torpedo. Like the whole video that's obviously resurfaced, thousands of times on the internet now and on social media. And I thought, oh, I don't know. I wonder if anybody else. My first thought was, I wonder if anybody else is using these. And then I thought, well, if the Yankees are, well, why aren't other teams? Are they that far ahead of everybody else? And then I was like, okay, well, whatever. Then Volpe hits a home run, and I'm like, I mean, that kind of looks like a wiffle ball bat. I don't know if it's going to be allowed. And then I didn't think much more of it. The next day, I checked social media.
People are losing
everybody
their
and their brothers making an opinion video on the tour. I mean, hell, if we wanted to, our podcast could have made. Everybody made one. So I don't know. To me, it's interesting because, look, supposedly Francisco Lindor uses a torpedo bat. The guy's off to a dreaded start, as he does every year in April.
Yeah,
that guy is horrendous in April.
Which also, we were talking off the air about it, because it has to be the same amount of wood in the bat, correct?
Yes.
Like that's okay.
There's certain things
right.
MLB standard.
Right. So if they're putting it all into that base part of the barrel, so that when you crack it, it goes as far as it possibly can. Basically, you're losing that width on the back end. If they throw like an outside slider, you have a way less of a chance to hit that. Your chase rate, if you have a high chase rate and you have one of those torpedo bats, you're going to be K'ing constantly.
Yeah, I agree with you. And look, they're not for everybody.
Right.
Like the best hitter in baseball, debatable, Aaron Judge and Shohei. It goes whatever. For my money, I guess right now I'll take Judge as the American League just to. Aaron Judge
regardless,
says he has no interest in using one.
Right.
So, like, some guys aren't comfortable. Like, if people think it's like steroids, right, where you can just it's just going to automatically make you crush the ball. Like, some guys have used them and do not like them. Like, they're not a cheat code.
Well, also, if you use that as Aaron Judge, how much better is it really going to make you? It's actually probably, in my opinion, hot take, it would probably make him worse.
Right.
Because he's probably going to miss, like we were just mentioning, those outside.
That he drives the right field for.
Yes, absolutely.
Now, look, it all depends on your swing. Like, certain guys swing a torpedo bat would do nothing but create an immense amount of pop-ups. Like,
yep.
And I thought Aaron Judge's quote was pretty good when he said, I mean, my numbers and my two MVPs speak for themselves. Like, okay, checkmate. Hard to argue that. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, look, it is interesting. The whole thing's interesting to me. So, back to the Guardians, who no one's used a torpedo bat so far.
Clearly.
No, but look, I don't want to overreact too much, but also another side of me says you better go take 2 out of 3 from the Angels. Do not come home. Do not come home 2-7.
Would you say this is a must-win series?
I wouldn't say must-win, but I'd say damn well better take 2 out of 3 from the Angels.
I think you gotta have some confidence going into the series and get 2 out of 3 against them, because the Angels, like we've said before, this is a team that had Trout and Shohei Ohtani, 2 of the best players in baseball, in the middle of their prime, and couldn't do anything with them.
And didn't do a thing.
You don't have either of them, or actually, I mean, you have Trout, but
Trout who's been hurt for years.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So. Yeah, you got to win 2 out of 3, and then obviously they're going to be coming home. Then we got the White Sox coming into town, followed by the Royals again already, just a couple weeks later. So
yeah, no, absolutely, and I thought
Angels and White Sox is a very good.
And you made a good point to me
series
today. Look, they've gone 2-4 on their 9-game opening road trip, but through the first 6. But you made a good point to me today, and it's very true. If you're going to get swept, let it be San Diego, and obviously not the division team in Kansas City.
Yeah, not even necessarily division. They're in a different league.
Right.
If we're gonna have a bad series, and this is just me being an optimist early on in the season, if you're gonna have a bad series and you're gonna get swept, I'll take any NL team to do it. It doesn't even have to be the Padres. It doesn't have to be the Dodgers. Any NL team, it counts the same.
Yeah, and the Padres right now are humming on all cylinders. Like, everything went right for them. It did seem like a lot of infield singles. And look, if we want to talk about our offense, and obviously a small sample size, the Jose Riz scare obviously was worrisome as all hell. And then the guy comes out and goes 3 for 4, and you're like, yeah, he's fine. He's good.
Yeah.
He's Jerome.
Absolutely.
He's good. He's Jose.
He's fine.
And he had a really good series. Like, early going, Santana's hit better than I thought he would at this point. So, thus far, he had a nice series.
Manzardo got off to an absurd start. He's slowed down in the Padres series.
The one who shocked me is Arias looks to be like not chasing everything, which is just shocking because we've watched him chase everything for parts of 3 years now.
Yeah.
The one who I projected on the podcast to start off and have a big year, Lane Thomas, has gotten off to a rough start.
That was actually my pick for biggest disappointment. Now I'm not gonna say that it's coming to fruition at all, because we see people get off to bad starts all the time and collect themselves. So rooting for Lane to turn it around. I think he will turn it around.
Me too.
Within the next, it's probably going to be the Angels series. I think that he ends up turning it around. I've been the most disappointed right now in Nolan Jones. This is a guy who came in. We thought he was going to be that solution for us in right field. Now, he had a good game today, Wednesday, against the Padres. He finally got back into a 2 for 4 outing. But those first, 4 or 5 games for him were rough. So I want to see him get back to the Nolan Jones that was with the Rockies just a couple years back. And
I think, and to put it into perspective, like, it's really hard not to do, because everybody gets so excited baseball's back, and then, like, if your team gets off to a rough start, and I'm not. Look, we did take 2 out of 3 in Kansas City, but we just got swept. So it's been like a lackluster start, let's call it. But I think it's so hard because everybody micromanages and looks at everything so intensely those first few games. But it's hard not to do. It's just natural instinct.
Well, keep in mind, we should have absolutely lost opening day too. The Royals had a blunder of all blunders.
Yeah, so you could make the argument we could be 1-5 right now. Thank God we ended up winning that game.
We also lost game 2 in a game that we should have won, but it all evens out over time.
Right.
That's truly what I believe. Your record is what your record is. That you just got to live and die by that. So,
and I think to put a bow on this and finish it where we started, Luis Ortiz, I think they got to get him to trust his stuff. Like, if you look at his arsenal, his stuff is pretty filthy. It just seems he has a lot of self-doubt and self-confidence issues out there on the mound sometimes.
I noticed a couple times, too, throughout the game that, like, just random assignments, like ground ball to second base, he had ran to cover first when Santana was already there.
Yeah.
So I think he's just in his head a little bit right now. I think spring training probably got to him.
Yeah.
And, if he has, I'm going to say 2 more bad outings, I'd send him down, let him get his stuff back together, and then bring him back up. Yes.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. And I trust Carl to get him right, though.
Yeah, I haven't lost complete faith in him either, because obviously this is the main piece of the Jimenez deal, which, of course, he's just crushing it in Toronto right now.
Right.
But this is a guy that, this organization's obviously very confident in, has great stuff to what you were just saying, and still a young player, so I'm not losing confidence at all, or I'm not losing all of my confidence in him right now. So
yeah, absolutely, and hopefully maybe he has maybe on next week's episode we're talking about him having a stellar start at the Big A on Sunday.
I'm telling you, this is my prediction going into the year. I had said it last episode was Ortiz and Allen were going to be those streaky pitchers. You could see a 4-inning game where he gave up 4 earned. Next week could go 6 innings, 1 earned, which hopefully that's the case. If we come in next week and we're talking about a fantastic Luis Ortiz start, I'm going to be thrilled.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. All right, well, that'll do it for Guardians talk. Let's hit odds and ends real quick. Chalk madness this year. All 4 1 seeds have advanced to the Final Four. Interestingly, the best one I thought that didn't have, like, Duke kind of rolled their way there. Houston definitely had some tough games. They did not. That was close. Auburn, they had a damn good game with Michigan State where they battled them pretty toughly. Florida, they had their challenges too. So that's interesting. That's where we're left here, Kevin, with Duke-Houston matchup and an all-SEC matchup on the other side of the bracket in Auburn, Florida. Who do you like to advance to the national championship game and then win the national championship game?
Duke, Florida, Duke winning it.
I have the exact same thing. I swear to God. And I know that's probably not good for ratings.
No, people wanted to hear Auburn, Houston come out.
Yeah, I know, but I don't have it. I did in my bracket to begin. And I'm gonna be honest. So
who did you have in your bracket in the championship?
Duke and Florida.
Did you have both of them really?
Yes, I did.
Oh, good for you, man.
Yeah,
good for you. I think Duke's my only Final Four team remaining.
Really?
Legitimately, yeah. It was a bad year for me.
2 out of 4 right. I got the
Duke and Florida.
I got the Duke and the Florida. I missed on the Tennessee. I had them.
Michigan State.
Yeah. So
I had Tennessee, Michigan State, Duke, and Maryland. I thought the Terps were going to go further than they did.
Yeah, I thought Tennessee was going to be able to beat Houston. Didn't work out that way. So the madness will all come to a close on Monday, and we'll obviously touch on it next week.
Yeah.
And let you know. Other odds and ends thing. The college basketball coaching carousel has been insane lately, and that included locally. Cleveland State coach Coach Robinson has moved on to North Texas. Obviously did a really good job here taking over for Dennis Gates, who took the Missouri job. And it's just unfortunate in the landscape of current college basketball. Anytime Cleveland State has any remote success, their coach is probably going to have to leave.
Right.
So
yeah, and one last thing just wanted to touch on real quick. I thought a fun little odds and ends thing. Did you see our boy Josh Cribbs very much advocating for the Kent State coaching job?
Yes, I did.
He said, hey, if you give me NIL money, I can turn this organization around. Now, how much he can actually turn around Kent State, was yet to be seen. Maybe get them to a 6-6, 7-5 type of deal.
That's an interesting situation, too, because they put their current coach on administrative leave, and it's been crickets as to why. You haven't heard anything, so we'll have to see how that all plays out. But yes, Josh Cribbs publicly advocating for this job. Go get it, my boy. That's my guy.
It would very much be cool to see Josh Cribbs as the head coach at Kent State. It would
I agree. And Josh Cribbs has embraced the Northeast Ohio area. The kid didn't grow up here. He grew up in D.C., but ever since he came, and Golden Flash, obviously, the story undrafted, Brown's greatest kick returner, one of them ever, him or Metcalf.
Yeah, him and Metcalf, yeah.
And, he has embraced this and he has truly made this a home. He's never left, and he's been retired from the Browns for years.
Yeah, we technically kind of went to school with him because he went back to BW while we were there. So
Josh Cribbs went back to school again. Yeah. I've had the pleasure of meeting him a handful of times. What a great guy. He really is.
He's a good dude.
Really
we got our picture taken with him at that one event.
Andre Knott's event.
Yeah, Andre Knott's event. Whatever it was. I don't know where that picture is, by the way, because I think they just posted it to a website. I have no idea where to get it.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen the picture, to be honest.
I don't think I have either.
But
I remember getting that picture.
He told
taken.
some great stories that night, and that was a fun event.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah. All right. Well, that'll do it for this week's show. Derek, thank you. You did a wonderful job on the other side. Kevin,
you did.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You did a great job. Listeners, thank you for following, for liking. You know what? We want to thank you again next week, so do it again. Follow us, like us, give us a thumbs up. All our social media handles are at
CLE Sports Realm. Please follow us. We'll follow back. Subscribe to us. Turn on those notifications too. You don't want to miss any episodes. Please comment with us. Comment on the episodes. We'll engage with you. Yeah,
thank you. Thank everybody. And we'll be back and we'll do it again. We had so much fun. Let's do it again next week.
We'll do it again next week for episode number 23. Will be next week.
All right. So we'll make it good, and we'll touch on Cavs next week for sure. Thanks.
Yeah.
Have a good
and
one.
Because
everybody.
we didn't talk about them tonight, go Cavs.
Go Cavs. Big game tonight.